So today is a really, really special day for me. This is the 10-year anniversary of something that was a really profound moment in my life. 10 years ago, I was 24 years old, and I was a professional firefighter. I loved my job. It was really, really good. Okay, and I don't know if you've ever had this moment where you look at your life, or continuous moments where you look at your life and everything is good, but you have something inside that says that it could be better. So there could be something more. That's what I was feeling when I was 24. And so 10 years ago, literally today, May 10th, 2006, I quit my job at the fire hall to go and find that something more. And that catalyzed this crazy journey of becoming a highly successful real estate agent, becoming a bodybuilder that weighed 225 pounds. I'm serious, look at this. Jeez, beefcake. So look at, yeah. I don't even recognize this guy. Look at this. This tan. To get that thing that dark, I had to layer that on at midnight, 2 a.m., and 4 a.m., and 6 a.m. to get it that dark. And obviously no one told me I was supposed to put it on my face, too. It's my first show. And the reason I like to show this is because this, on that journey, represents the pinnacle of this outward search for happiness. Okay, at the time I had the business, I had the money, I had the car, I had the girlfriend, I had the house, I had all of these things, but I was still yearning for something more. I just knew there was something more, something that would actually give sustaining, fulfilling happiness. So I did something that's rather cliche. I decided to stop giving to myself, and I would give to other people. And I had a very succinct idea of what giving meant. I thought giving meant I have something, and I'm going to give it to someone else who needs something, and therefore they're going to be really thankful to me for giving it to them. I decided I wanted to go. Oh, by the way, are anybody millennials in the room? A couple millennials? Yeah, so millennials, as you guys know, in your corporate atmospheres, millennials think a little bit differently. And so when we think about charity, millennials don't want to just give the way their predecessor generations gave. They want to go and see the impact. They want to see it, touch it, feel it. They want to go and actually experience the impact firsthand. And so I was the same. I wanted to go and see where my money was going to be going. So I went on a trip. I went to Uganda. I found a nonprofit that would allow me to see their operations on the ground and get an idea for where my money would be placed. And I'm going to skip a bunch of the story where I usually talk about how this village was plagued by AIDS and malaria and how they didn't have adequate housing or water supply, and just let you know that the act of me leaving my comfortable environment, getting immersed in this culture where there's full of different people living in completely different lives, and connecting with them at a core level, it led to a feeling that I can only term with one word, and that is oneness. At a moment in this village in Uganda, all the walls that I had in my head separating me from them, I'm from Canada, Canadians from Ugandans or Americans and Europeans, all of these walls just kind of came crumbling down, and I realized for the very first time at a visceral cellular level that I was the exact same as these people. And when you're looking at giving through the lens of oneness, it completely changes this transactional nature, this hierarchy that we typically associate with giving. And it changed it from me giving something that I had to something to someone needed to just being. It eliminated the word giving altogether. And the only way that I can explain that, or the best way that I can think to explain it, is let's say I had a cut on my right hand. Chances are my left hand would come over, it would bandage it up, it would clean it, it would put some ointment on it, get it ready so that it could heal. And my left hand is not going to say to my right hand, by the way, you owe me, right? Because it knows the right hand and the left hand, they know they're part of the same thing. And so it just does what needs to get done. Or another example would be if you had a sister or a brother or a mother or a father, someone you cared about deeply, and they were on the other side of the world and they were suffering. They didn't have a place to sleep. They didn't have clean water. They're dying for some preventable disease. My guess, my hope, would be that you would uproot anything you're doing and you would go and stop the suffering. Am I right? So that's how I started feeling about these people that I had met in Uganda. And what was interesting is that dominoed, because as soon as I felt like that about them, I started feeling like that about everyone else in the world. And as soon as you feel like that, it's impossible to not do something. So I got back to Canada, and I decided I would start small. I would start by fundraising to build a schoolhouse for my new brothers and sisters on the other side of the world. I knew this schoolhouse would cost $10,000. Decided I would crowdfund it. I was going to get a bunch of people to give maybe $20 a piece. Do you know how many people you'd have to get to give $20 to raise $10,000? It's like 500 people. I don't have 500 friends or 500 people that like me. So I came up with a really simple equation that I thought would work really well. I asked 33 of my friends to give $3.33 a day for 3 months. So a group of friends giving coffee a day for 3 months is enough to build a schoolhouse that would educate and empower roughly 1,000 kids over the next 20 years. I asked them all to give, and the way that I asked them was a little bit different. I didn't want to, put on some charity golf tournament or spend time going for coffee with every single person that I was trying to get to give. I basically made a combination of Snapchat and Kickstarter, where I made a personal video for every single one of my 33 friends. I put it on a donation page like this, and this is an example of one of those videos. This would be me talking to my buddy Mike, saying, "Hey, Mike, really excited about this. We're going to build a school." And then I attached this animated video to it that would tell Mike everything he needed to know, like that we were going to build a schoolhouse, it was going to educate hundreds and hundreds of kids, that he was going to get a social media badge to put on his wall, a tax receipt, that it was the same price as a cup of coffee or a slice of pizza or parking downtown for 2 hours. I said it's less than the tip that you would leave at a restaurant, and if you do it, your mom's going to be really, really proud of you. So I sent this out to my friends. They all gave, and in no time we raised $10,000, enough to build this school. And it felt amazing. And so a friend of mine saw what we had done. He donated to my campaign, and he decided to try it with his friends. He reached out to his friends, made them all personal videos. He raised $10,000 in a day, ended up raising $20,000 in 2 days, and then it just dominoed and kind of snowballed from there, where we had other people that had donated, other people that had seen the campaigns, wanted to build their own school as well, and in no time we funded 100 schoolhouses in 8 countries that will touch and impact about 100,000 people. Thank you. And then from there, it kind of, again, just kind of snowballed into more. We started funding water projects and girl scholarships, anti-sex trafficking work, homelessness initiatives, veterans rehabilitation, more schools. And in total, it's funded now 400 projects all over the world, 14 countries. We've had 16,000 people give from 80 countries all over the world and impacted 200,000 people. And those numbers are really exciting. I love looking at those. But what those means, look through the numbers for a second and know what this means: that people have clean water that didn't have clean water. And families have homes that didn't have homes. And kids have schools that didn't have schools. All stemming from a moment of oneness. Now, this story is nothing new. You've heard it 100 times before. Someone leaves their environment, they immerse themselves in another environment, they learn about the culture, learn about the people, ideally experience something like that they would explain that would sound something like oneness, and then change the trajectory of their life. Think about Scott Harrison from New York nightlife promoter, left his environment to New York, went to Liberia on the African continent, immersed himself in a new culture, had a moment that I would call oneness, came home, started an organization called Charity Water that has now impacted millions of people through clean water and sanitation. Or John Wood, really successful executive with Microsoft, living his own life in San Francisco, came out of that environment, immersed himself into a new environment in Southeast Asia, found this massive need for libraries and books, came home after experiencing this oneness experience, and started Room to Read. Room to Read opens more libraries than Starbucks opens cafes. Now, the thing is, these people are the exceptions. They're the anomalies. They're the people we see on CNN Heroes and think, wow, those people are doing some really good things in the world. I'm glad they're doing that work. What if they weren't the exception? What if they weren't the anomaly? What if I told you that there's a predictable, replicable path to oneness? What would our world look like if every single person on earth experienced oneness? If we all looked at each other like brothers and sisters? So, how do we go about creating a path to oneness? You remember that equation that I was talking about, the 33 people, $3.33 a day for 3 months? We changed that to be 11 people giving $3.33 a day for 3 months, which adds up to $3,300, enough to build a home like this, all throughout Latin America, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Brazil, Argentina, Chile. And the houses that this family here was living in prior was a one-room shack made of tin, some mud, some sticks, dirt floor, no locking doors, no locking windows, rickety roof over their head. And now they have this home, which is a 2-bedroom home with a living area, solid foundation, wood floors, 2 bedrooms, living area, solid roof over their head, and the dignity that comes with having a place to call home. Now, how do we package this oneness? What we thought we'd do is we would get a bunch of people that had raised enough money to build these homes and their friends who wanted to come and help build. We get 50 of them, put them on a plane, fly them all down on a Friday to a place like this, like Nicaragua. And the next day, or they sleep Friday night at a schoolhouse that's close to the build site, get up Saturday morning, Nicaraguan coffee in their hand, go to the build site, meet the family that's going to be living in the home that they've just funded. They build with the family and a bunch of local volunteers, like local university students. Then lunchtime, the mother that's going to be living in the house is the one who creates, or the one who, at lunchtime, the mother who's going to be living in the home cooks everyone a meal, and they share and they break bread together. Build for the rest of the day. Same thing on Sunday. Get up Sunday morning. Build all day Sunday with the family, with the local volunteers. And at the end of the day on Sunday, my favorite moment, there's this ribbon cutting ceremony where the funders and the builders hold up a ribbon. The family cuts through the ribbon, and the funder hands them the keys and watches them walk into their home for the very first time. And these moments of oneness, they're kind of strewn all throughout this trip. Sometimes it happens when they're connecting with the family, hearing their stories, hearing about their challenges, hearing about their goals in life. Sometimes it's when they're laughing and playing with the kids. But when they do happen, we don't just tell people to throw them back on a plane and go back to their normal life after they've just had this most transformative experience potentially of their existence. We go to the beach, we have some cold beers, some hot pupusas, we surf, we do yoga, we meditate, we journal, we talk about, most importantly, how they're going to integrate this experience into their day-to-day lives and what they're going to do going forward. And my favorite part is we show them that they're part of a community of people just like them that have experienced the same thing that can reinforce that oneness over and over again. Like this picture was the last dinner that our group had together in Nicaragua a couple weeks ago. But it's actually the first dinner of this community because we have dinners in LA, in New York, in Toronto, in Vancouver, in San Francisco, where we show people that they're part of a bigger community that feels like this and is acting on it. And speaking of community, do we all work for Fortune 500 companies, big companies, yes, in this room? Well, I hear over and over again people are struggling with millennial churn, like millennials aren't staying in the workplace or hopping from job to job. There's two things that millennials care about more than anything else, and it's community and experiences. So imagine for a second, think for a second, back to your workplace. Think about those 25, 27, 29-year-old millennials that you work with. Now picture them all getting on a plane together. Picture 50 of them all getting on a plane together, flying down to El Salvador, camping overnight in a local schoolhouse, going and building a home for a family that they've never met in a country that they've never been to, learning about their stories, sharing these vulnerable moments. They're crying with the family's crying with them. That's the thing. On these trips, people come as strangers, and they leave as complete best friends. Then they go to the beach, they surf, they do yoga, and imagine those somewhat separate 25, 27, 29-year-olds coming back to your workplace, inserting them back into the workplace. They're not just going back as people, they're going back as a community. Why would they ever leave? If they were to leave that workplace, they would be leaving their community, they'd be leaving their best friends, and they'd be leaving the provider of one of the most transformative experiences that they've ever had in their life. So millennial churn, solved. But really, you guys, what this is about is oneness. And this is a moment that I'll never forget, that those hands belong to a 95-year-old man named Senor Rodriguez. Marlon and Ariel, two party promoters from Vancouver, BC, raised enough money to build Senor Rodriguez a home. They built it alongside him. Marlon swinging powerfully, Senor Rodriguez swinging his hammer. Senor Rodriguez swinging his hammer with the precision that only comes with a century of experience. And after he cut through that ribbon, Ariel handed him the keys, and they both explain that this is one of the most profound moments that they've ever had in their life. And as for Senor Rodriguez, I think a picture speaks 1,000 words. Thank you, guys.